What's up, friends? Happy Friday. Welcome into this happy hour edition of the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Thanks so much for being here today. It feels like, after you go through the draft and all the live parties and the live shows and everything like that, where you go live show after live show after live show. Now, after the, members only Q&A, I think we did it on Tuesday. I don't know. I'm completely lost on days and when things happen, but it feels like it's been a while since we've done a live show. So it's great to be chatting with you guys. Thanks so much for being here. And I only got about 45 minutes before I have to go pick up the kids from school. So I'm going to jump in right away and get to as many questions as I can over the next 45 minutes or so. If you want to make sure that your question goes to the top of the list, make sure you get those super chats in. And then last 15 minutes or so, I'll probably focus a little bit more on members' questions. Let's start with Chicken. Heard a lot about Dobbs and Watson after the Golden selection, but what I wonder is how this affects Wicks. I think in totality, it's going to affect the entire wide receiver room. With Watson, we'll see, when he comes back and things like that, but there's competition and everyone's going to have to earn everything that they get. If you're running the wrong routes, if you're dropping passes, if you're not blocking on the outside, good luck getting on the field. And it's not to say we've gone through this before, the Packers have 6 viable wide receivers. And then it was like, oh, maybe not so much. Let's see what all of these guys bring to the table in 2025. But there's a lot of talent there. And I think there's going to be a ton of competition. And if you're a bottom of the roster guy and you want to make the team, Malik Heath, McCole Hardman, Bo Melton, they're going to be fighting tooth and nail for that number 6 spot is what it looks like right now. And certainly if anyone like Julian Hicks or anyone else wants to get in that conversation, they're going to have to fight even harder. As far as getting active on game day, I think it's fair to assume Wicks, Reed, Dobbs, and Golden are probably going to be active. Maybe Golden's a little bit like, hey, you're going to have to prove it, but in all likelihood, those 4 are going to be active in some way. So between Savion Williams and the other wide receiver who makes it as wide receiver 6, they're going to have to fight over probably that 5th and final active roster spot on game days. And then anyone that's active, any of the 5, they're going to have to fight to get on the field and stay on the field because everyone's going to be nipping at their heels trying to get on the field. So I think all of them are affected. And as far as Wicks goes, I think it's a huge season for him. I think he showed a ton of potential in his first season. Last year, really came out, could not have had pretty much a worse first half of the year. Settled into the second half of the season, still showed some of that upside is still there. But this is, again, sort of a proving ground now of hey, which one are you? Are you the one that we can count on that has the playmaking potential, the separation ability, and can actually catch the ball? Or is this just going to be a consistent unreliability that we cannot count on in any given moment? This is a huge opportunity and a huge season for Wicks. If he goes out and kills it, he has every right to be on the field as much as he wants. I still believe he can be the number 1 wide receiver in this group. If you told me that, he was at 5th or 6th and deactivated on game days because he wasn't, having the focus that they needed him to, I could see that as well. I don't think there's a world in which he doesn't make the team, but I do think he's probably one of the more unique ones where if you said he's on the team, but on game days, he falls anywhere from wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 6 or anything in between, I would probably believe it. So I think for him, this is a massive season. And, he's got this year and then next year before he's due for that contract. Now, if he wants that big payday in a couple of years, now is a great time to start focusing in and kind of getting locked in and becoming that receiver that I know we think he can become. But now the question is, can he become it and more consistently? No, you've done it for free agency, but would you ever do a video ranking for every draft pick of goodies? Maybe at some point. That's a solid May, June, middle of the doldrums kind of episode. So yeah, we could look at that at some point. I think the hard part with ranking the draft picks, and maybe I've done this at some point, or maybe it was just free agency, but the hard part is that they're all at different layers of their careers. So it's always how would you rank right now, Savion Williams versus Dontavian Wicks? Who knows? And how would you rank, Jordan Morgan in that list? It's tough because so many of these players are still defining themselves. So you could rank as first 4 or 5 draft classes, something a little bit more in that range. But if you want to do them in their totality, it's a little bit tougher because again, they're all at different kind of stages of their career. What's the overall under on Wicks becoming wide receiver 1 in 2025? I would expect that this is probably one of those situations where, again, there's not a true wide receiver 1 almost no matter what. They're going to rotate those guys in and out. I would love somebody to take that mantle and be that dude, but I think there's so much just unique skill sets and how Matt wants to utilize his wide receivers, that a lot of rotations, a lot of different plays for different players. And I think there's going to be, again, subbing in and out quite a bit. So I don't know that anyone necessarily does, but like I said, if you want to like order it, I don't know. Percentages right now are not a good number to, or a good thing to ask me. I got a little, not trouble or hot water, but a little controversial percentage recently. So I don't know what the percentage is, but again, he has every right to go out and earn any wide receiver spot that he wants on this team. He's just got to go out and kill it. And I think he has that ability to do so. Now it's just all about consistency. All right, Troy, I like this question. Assuming the Giants and Falcons were offering the Packers similar trades, would you have taken them? What would the Eagles have had to offer you to accept? A couple of these are easy. I probably wouldn't have moved down with Philly. I talked about this with Justice simply because it felt like right where they were at pick 23 was right where that Mendoza line was for kind of like there's just a cliff that kind of fell off from a talent. Not a huge one, but I felt like Green Bay kind of got like the last true first round value in Matthew Golden. And then it almost felt like the next tier was starting at 24, probably going to like pick 40, somewhere in that range. So I would not have considered anything from Philly, and I would not have taken a couple third round picks from the Giants to move down into the beginning of the second round. Both of those would have been off the table. And now if Philly offers something insane, sure, we can always have a conversation, but I would have been more likely to stay with those two. The Falcons one is a bit more interesting. For those who don't remember, it was I forget the team that traded with them, but it was their first round pick plus a third round pick this year, a late third, for a second round pick this year, and like mid second, like pick 46, I think it was. So pick 46. And then you also would have received a seventh rounder this year and the Falcons' first round pick next year. So you get a bit of a lottery ticket where you don't know where that pick's going to end up. It could easily be a top 10 pick. Now, the South isn't great, so it's probably between Atlanta and Tampa to win the South. But if they don't win the South, it's probably, I don't know, pick 15, 16, somewhere in that range. And, you get a couple injuries or the Falcons just, whatever, pull a Falcons. And that could be a top 10 pick. That would have been the one that I would have considered a little bit more. If you're making it as easy as possible to understand from a Packers standpoint, the picks aren't exactly apples to apples, but if you look at it from a value, it basically would have been Green Bay's first rounder this year and their fourth rounder this year for a second rounder this year and a first rounder next year from the Falcons. If I'm Green Bay, I would have considered this. Now, if you're looking at it, let's just, again, make it easy here. You do not get Matthew Golden. You do not get Baron Sorrell. And who knows the butterfly effect of how it would have affected the rest of the draft and so on and so forth. But again, from an ease of, just thinking about this standpoint, you lose out on Matthew Golden. You lose out on Baron Sorrell. If you trade back to 46, let's just say again for ease that they wanted to stick at wide receiver. At 46, they could have gotten Trey Harris or Jack Besh. That's kind of that next tier of wide receivers that was out there. So the question would become, would you trade Matthew Golden and Baron Sorrell for either Trey Harris or Jack Besh and a first round pick next year? That to me is more one that I would have considered. I probably would have done Trey Harris in next year's first in that situation, or even Jack Besh in next year's first. I really like both of those wide receivers. I have no issue with Goody turning down that. I think getting Matthew Golden is great value. I think losing out on that fourth round pick would have been an issue as well, just for a second this year. I would have loved the lottery ticket first rounder next year, but with Golden being there and the situation that you were in, especially with the draft in Green Bay, I think it makes sense to kind of just stay where he did. But that would have been the one that I would have spent a lot more time considering, because that future first round pick is just such an incredible lottery ticket. And again, you never know where a team's going to end up. So a couple things go wrong and you get a top 5 pick next year. Like, oh my goodness, like in next year's draft is better than this year's draft. That I would have spent a long time thinking about that if I were Goody, but I'm not disappointed by it. I think what he did made all the sense in the world. And I know obviously Baron Sorrell now, not that you would have known that he was going to be in there the fourth round when you initially made the trade, but I think you feel a little bit better about that. So I think in the end it worked out well, but that would have been the only one I would have considered. I went to the draft in KC and Green Bay. Green Bay was set up much better. Kudos to Mark Murphy and the Packers. Yeah, I was at Vegas and I technically wasn't there for Green Bay because I was doing this the entire time, but I went down there ahead of time, saw everything, saw how it was set up, and then obviously saw it on TV. And it looked like this one was a little bit better than the Vegas one. All right, we're going to get back to chicken right after this. Gut, who earns the job opposite Gary at edge and is it a full-time starter by midseason? Does Gary step his game up in a big way this year? So I think this is going to be another one of those situations where you see quite a bit of a rotation just all throughout the edge rusher. I'm less concerned about who is like the quote unquote starter, as more importantly to me is like who steps up and becomes that secondary pass rusher to Rashawn. Can LVN be that? Can Brenton Cox be that? Can Barron Sorrell be that? Can Oliver be that? Those are my bigger questions. I don't really care what the rotation looks like or what the snaps look like or whatever. Can you keep those guys fresh? Can you rotate them in? Can everyone be successful? And can two guys be your pass rush specialist? Not specialist, but your big time, pressure guys. That's what I want to see. Don't have if I were to guess, I think they're going to really try to have LVN be that guy opposite Gary as kind of the number 2 guy. But that's another one kind of like wide receiver where if you told me it was LVN, if you told me it was Brenton Cox, if you told me it was Sorrell, if you told me it was Yanigbari, I could believe all of those things. But again, I'm less concerned about who's in at what times or like who's the quote unquote starter and more of 3rd and 10, have to get a stop, who's rushing opposite Rashawn Gary, and can they take a big step this year because you need that. As far as Gary goes, I think at this point, who Rashawn Gary is. He's a really good pass rusher. Probably never going to be in that upper echelon. Probably never going to be a all-pro level player, but probably your top pass rusher, especially this year. And now it's just, is there any other level that he can get to, or can can Clark and Wyatt and LVN take a step where maybe a little bit more of that pressure is off of Gary? He gets a few less double teams and can even make more of an impact because you have to worry about some of the other players as well. But I wouldn't expect anything like. It's rare where at this point of your career, when you've been doing this for so long, that all of a sudden it's like, wow, Rashawn Gary's an all-pro this year. It usually doesn't work that way. So I think we're probably going to see a very similar Rashawn Gary this year that we've seen over the last few seasons, which is a very good player, somebody that helps your team quite a bit, but maybe, again, isn't that top tier first team all-pro, which is fine. There's very few of those. Brandon, thank you for the super chat. And Craig, thank you as well. Way too early prediction come February. Who has the most production in their rookie year, Williams or Golden? I'll say Golden for sure. I wouldn't hesitate with that at all. Williams is a lottery ticket. Not that, all of the draft picks are to some extent a lottery ticket, but Williams is a high variance lottery ticket. I think he can have whatever career that he wants to have if he's honed in and focused. He's got every tool that he needs to be successful. As you guys saw or at least some of you saw on my Twitter handle this week, I was geeking out. And I'm sure as you heard on the deep dive this week, I was geeking out about some of the stuff that he did on tape. Excuse me. I think he has every right to be a very special player. But again, there's a lot of reasons that would hold him back. Hasn't been a production guy throughout his career, not a 100-yard receiver type of guy, only one time. He's had some drop issues. He's not the most nuanced route runner. Like, it's going to probably take him a little bit of time to just fit into this offense and kind of, I'm sure for Matt LaFleur too, to figure out how to utilize him. And then you also have so many wide receivers that it's going to be tough for any of these guys to, I think, get really crazy consistent time as a rookie. And I would just say that Golden's probably going to be given a little bit more of that opportunity, a little bit more leeway to be successful as a first-round pick. So I'll easily go Golden in this situation. All right. Just getting back here. Packers just announced the UDFA signings. Bugs Brown wasn't on the list. Oh, he wasn't? I thought he was. That's interesting. For some reason, I looked through it quick and I thought that he was. But I must have just misread it quick. I just basically retweeted it. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Here we go. Roster moves. You are correct. Oh, no, he is. Kazir Brown, safety, 6'1", 223, number 35. He's on there. He's just listed as Kazir Brown and not Bugs Brown, and he's listed as a safety, not a corner. So we got our answer. He's listed at safety, not corner. So he's on there. All right. Spider Monkeys, now it's your job, Andy, to go and rewatch the Giants game from 2 years ago to see what vision LaFleur was talking. To be fair, I don't think he was talking about a vision for how they used him. I think he was more saying of like, they used him at linebacker. They used him at safety. They used him in the slot. They used him everywhere is I think what Matt was saying there. Not that he was specifically in one role and getting everywhere. I think he was more saying that like they utilized him everywhere when they went back and watched him. And I think that versatility, because he was asked a question kind of about the versatility as well, or he was starting to talk about versatility. So I think that's more what he meant. Not that like, oh my God, they figured out this golden way to use Isaiah Simmons. It was more of just like, he was lining up everywhere against them and in games that they watched leading up to that game. John, happy Friday to you too. Oh, is it not? Is Kazir Brown not Bugs Brown? Am I wrong on that? Yeah, no, that's the same. That's the same guy. Bugs Brown is Kazir Brown. So he's on there. All right. Unless I'm going crazy. I mean, it literally lists here on Florida Atlantic University's website, Bugs Kazir Brown. So I feel pretty confident in this. Theory on the third round picks. The front office plays a drinking game on day 2. Someone they drink a lot. Sometimes they drink a lot and you get a trade up for Amari Rodgers. Sometimes they don't and you get a Tucker Kraft. Sure. I mean, honestly, the way that the NFL draft is, I mean, might as well. You have just about as much of a chance, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe they were stone sober and they traded up for Amari Rodgers, and maybe they got super hammered and picked Tucker Kraft, and now they're like, you know what, we're getting hammered every time. You know, that would be the better way. It's like me playing poker. It's a true story. I've won literal poker tournaments in Vegas. That is a true story. Well, one poker tournament in Vegas, but I've only played in one poker tournament in Vegas. I was hammered. I mean, maybe not hammered, but definitely drunk. I was definitely drunk, played in a poker tournament in Vegas, won the whole thing. I was at my friend's wedding in New Orleans, 3, 4 in the morning. This one hammered, absolutely hammered. Go to the casino in New Orleans. My friend's like, don't go in. Played the best cards of my entire life. Like, I remember a hand to this day. It was my greatest hand of poker I ever played. Guy stood up at the table, slapped a full house down. I think it was kings over aces. And I had aces over kings with pocket aces and played it perfectly and won a huge pot. It was unbelievable. It's totally hammered. If I go and play sober, the worst poker player you've ever seen. So when I'm drunk, I'm like inherently having fun. So I play very cautious and play very tight to the vest and just play premium hands. And like, I don't know, I'm just very aware and in the moment. And when I'm sober, I'm just like, this sucks. Like, I want to play, and I just play every hand and it goes very, very poorly. So maybe it's like that. Maybe when they're hammered, they do their better work. And maybe when they're sober, they do their worst work, like very similar to me playing poker. So if I go play poker, I make sure to have a few drinks ahead of time, because for whatever reason, and this is like on multiple occasions now, play much, much better when I am drunk than I am sober. Weird things. Any free agent cornerback or trades using your 7th round picks for a corner you're interested in? Mike Hilton, Kendall Fuller, etc. Those guys probably want to start, but they would have to be a backup for us. Probably not. I want to see how the Jair situation, kind of plays out first. And then I'd have to look. I would be more likely to try to call up teams and be like, hey, is there anyone available via trade? Anyone that you've fallen out of favor with, or like that you want to make a change of scenery type of trade? I'd probably go a little bit more in that direction. Kendall Fuller would be semi-interesting, but it doesn't really move the needle. Asante Samuel, I'd want to know his injury history, but there's not a ton of great options. So right now I would probably, if Jair's not back, I'd probably be making those phone calls to see if anyone's available that would make sense. And then if not, kind of keep an eye on the waiver wire and just kind of see how training camp goes, and then kind of go from there. If you start seeing that maybe some guys step up, or, Kalen King or Kamal Haddon or Micah Robinson or any of those guys look good, maybe it's not a necessary thing, but I wouldn't be jumping through hoops right now to go get Kendall Fuller or Asante Samuel or anyone like that at this point. But if it starts getting bad or there's injury issues, then that could potentially change very, very quickly. All right, R.R. Smith. As a Bullard fan, I wasn't thrilled with him in the slot chasing receivers against the run, though. Fire. Look forward to figuring out more ways to get he, X, and Evan on the field at the same time. Yeah, I've been pretty steadfast in this throughout the offseason. I think this is going to be Evan Williams and McKinney at safety as the primary safeties. I think on earlier downs, 1st and 10, 2 tight end sets, more what I would consider like base nickel downs or big nickel, whatever you want to call it. In those situations, I think Bullard's going to be in the slot, and then Nixon's going to be at one corner, and then we'll see if it's Jair or if it's probably either Jair or Hobbs, right? If Jair's with the team, it's probably Jair, and if he's not, then it's probably Hobbs. Like, that would be my guess as the other outside corner, but kind of as your like base nickel or big nickel. And I expect Bullard to be in that spot in the nickel in those situations. More run defense downs, and then can still play his zone and blitz off the edge and do some things. I think that fits. But when you get to obvious passing downs, to your point, I don't love him chasing slot receivers either. I think that's where you get to Hobbs in the slot, Nixon on one side, and then is it, Valentine or Jair on the outside, or some other cornerback that they pick up. I think that'll be kind of the interesting aspect. So that's how I see Bullard being used, as kind of their big nickel. on earlier downs, take one of those corners off the field, be a bit more physical when you're going against some 2 tight end sets. And I think he can work that way, but I really don't need him on the field on obvious passing downs. And I think you've got some other options that you can use there now. Let's see here. All right, go Pack. There's obviously still a lot of offseason left, but which position do you worry about more, corner or D-line? I think both can be workable if you don't have injuries. I think injuries are what would make me concerned. And I think just the lack of depth at both of those spots is what concerns me. And specifically defensive tackle with Kenny Clark. If Kenny goes down, or just Kenny has a really bad year, let's say like last year was just the first sign of decline and now it's worse this year, I don't expect that to be the case. I think he's going to bounce back. But let's say that is the case. He just doesn't play well at all, or he gets hurt, and whatever the case may be, not having somebody that you can feel very comfortable with stepping into that kind of nose tackle role or that run stopping role, I have major concerns about that. That probably is where I'm at a little bit more right now. Corner, again, I think they can get by, but if you have especially Nixon, Hobbs, or Valentine go down, unless Jair is back, which then again, you get one more buffer piece. But if you have one of those guys go down, I think it gets a little bit sketchy really fast. That's more where my concern would be. So nothing I'm massively concerned about at the moment, but one injury away at either of those positions where you're like, oh, this does not look anywhere near as good. So I would say probably defensive tackle and somebody that could step in and into that Kenny Clark role if you need him to. But then it would be corner very, very directly after that. Is there a list of how much the undrafted free agents got? I see we gave safety I think it was a little bit over 100K. How much did Tyron Herring and Kazir Brown get? Could be telling if either makes the team. Don't think we've seen any confirmation yet, but in a few months when all the dust settles, just go over the cap and they'll have the full contracts listed with how much guaranteed money was given. But usually they only make a habit of paying 1 to 3 guys like guaranteed money and the rest are non-guaranteed, but we'll see if they kind of changed anything up this year, especially with not having as many picks in the draft. What were some prospects off the top of your head that you think went to perfect situations around the league? I do think, Donovan Ezeraku to the Cowboys made a ton of sense with what they needed, and putting him opposite Micah Parsons could be really fun for them. Playing in that system on that track, I think is a really, really good fit for Ezeraku. Walter Nolan going to Arizona, playing behind, and just getting to work with Calais Campbell and Delvin Tomlinson and some veterans along that defensive line. I think that was a really good fit. Trying to think. Yeah, I think Trey Harris, wide receiver for the Chargers. I think that was a really good fit. You go to Justin Herbert. They needed an outside wide receiver, and they needed kind of that possession guy. You get some speed, you get some physicality. I think he's going to work very well in that Jim Harbaugh offense. I think that was a very good fit. Yeah, just off the top of my head, those were kind of a few of them. I'd have to kind of look at it a little bit more in detail, but those were some that stood out to me. I just went through the depth charts, the draft results for all the teams the other day. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really stands out. But some of the offensive linemen too. I mean, I don't expect the Saints to be any good, but I think Banks going to the Saints helps really kind of make them into a much stronger offensive line. Yeah, I'll kind of go those for now. But I mean, I'm sure if I had the list in front of me, we could go over multiple ones that make a lot of sense. Everyone hates 22 for Golden, but it's my wife's lucky number. She doesn't care about football at all, but has some scary intuition sometimes. She said they're going to win the Super Bowl. John, I'll take any intuition that says the Packers can win the Super Bowl or will win the Super Bowl that you want to give. So keep handing it out. I think the 22 will grow on people. And listen, if he goes out and crushes it, it's going to be something that's unique and special to him. And I'm all for that. Rasheem Shaheed in New Orleans is another one that wears 22 at wide receiver. So it's not completely out of the realm. I just hope he can kind of make it his and it becomes a really cool thing for him. And listen, if it was for his grandma, by all means, go do it. And that's way more important than anything else. Do you think they keep 4 running backs? If not, who do you think gets cut? I do think they keep 4 running backs. I don't want to, I mean, it's either Chris Brooks or Emmanuel Wilson. I think Emmanuel Wilson is more talented. I think Chris Brooks gives you more things that he can do for the team. So I guess I would say Brooks would be the one out, but I do think they keep all 4 of them. Killer Kenny, hi Andy, with the new linebacker addition is Simmons in the UDFA, along with Welch returning and Hopper still developing. Who is your early prediction on who will get cut from the 53-man roster? Well, first of all, I think all 6 of those guys, they wanted to keep 6 a season ago and just didn't have kind of the guys to do it. I think that could be your 6. All right. Okay. Let me think. So we've got Hopper, Quay. Sorry. Let me start over. Cooper, Quay, McDuffie, Hopper, Welch, Simmons, and then Dumas Johnson, who just went by Johnson on the roster release today. So they have 7. So I think they keep 6. I would probably say that final spot comes down between Welch and Dumas Johnson, or just, again, Jamon Johnson. And then I guess usually you go with kind of the UDFA guy, but it also wouldn't stun me if they kept 5 again, and it was just Simmons and Hopper backing up, and then they were able to get Johnson back on the practice squad and maybe even Welch back on the practice squad. So with how many players they're going to need to keep at other positions, I'm going to say they go with 5 again, and both Welch and Johnson find themselves not on the active roster, but either of them could. And you could end up with both of them too. And maybe, Simmons is the guy out. Simmons is on a contract where he's going to have to earn the team as well. But I'll say that the top 5 are pretty good not locks, but pretty good bets to make the team. And then probably between Welch and Johnson at that point. I was about to ask the same thing. Johnson, Oliver, Simmons, McDuffie might mean Hopper. No, Hopper's not going anywhere. That I'd be pretty stunned by. I'm more interested in trading Kingsley when Sorrell takes the spot. I don't think Kingsley is guaranteed to make the roster. I think some guys that are interesting that are going to have to earn it. Kingsley and Igbari is going to have to earn it. Brenton Cox is going to have to earn it. Colby Wooden's going to have to earn it. I think those are some interesting players on the defensive line. I don't think Hopper's going to go anywhere. I think it would have to take something catastrophic for him not to make the team as a former 3rd rounder. Your top corners are obviously all going to make it. I think that safety gets interesting between, Oladapo and Zane Anderson if you need more bodies, but I would expect both those guys make it. But yeah, there's definitely some guys that are now going to have to earn it going into this season, where maybe in the past, because of their draft status or because of their, whatever, they were more locks. I don't think that's going to be the case with an Igbari or Wooden this year. I think those 2 in particular are going to have to go out and make this team. Happy Friday, Andy. Really enjoyed the Sorrell deep dive. One of my friends is B. Sorrell, a Bears fan. I was glad the Bears didn't draft him. Going to anger him so much when Sorrell is an all-pro. Go Pack Go. That'd be amazing. All right, we're going to come back to Grant at 2:45 here in just a second. Bolt up. Let's go. There we go. Your secondary team is the Chargers. I do remember that, Mike McGee. But yeah, Trey Harris, good fit for them for sure. All right. What did I say? 225? 325? Oh, man, I just said it too. And now I've completely lost it. All right. 245. There it was. Is it too early to call Golden Offensive Rookie of the Year? Should I bet the mortgage on it? Bet everything, even more than that, Grant. No, I think there's going to be a lot of players that are very much in that realm of conversation. So I wouldn't be betting anything on it, but, why not? He's certainly a super talented player, and hopefully he comes in and just crushes it from day one. Ja comes back this season. What's the plan for Javon? Yeah, I talked about this earlier. Same thing. I think on early nickel downs, or getting base nickel, big nickel, whatever you want to call it. I think you have Bullard in the slot, and then do you want Hobbs or Jair on the outside in that situation? But I think Bullard will still have a role. And then on obvious passing downs, you'd be looking at Hobbs in the slot, Nixon and Jair on the outside. I do not get annoyed with green and yellow because it is green and yellow. I get the phrase is green and gold, but we also have Lil Wayne who said green and yellow. So, when Lil Wayne says it, you kind of just go along with the flow sometimes, but I get it. It's green and gold, but I don't have any issue with it. Were you at Matt's presser today? I was. If not, but you watched it, what did you think of it? I wonder which teams forgo rookie minicamp. Yeah, I'd have to look into that, but no, I was at the presser today. It didn't go super long. It was only 10 to 12 minutes. I had 2 questions I wanted to ask in Bill Huber's ever so amazing wisdom. Right before I was going to ask about Simmons and their plan for Simmons, and he asked it almost right away. And then what was his second question? I forgot what it was now, but the second question, I was like, oh, I should ask this. And then literally Bill Huber asked it right there as well. So I didn't have an opportunity to ask anything today, which is totally fine. But Bill got both of my questions, which was great because I got the answer to both of them anyway. So it worked out well. Why don't I have a Rumble channel? I don't even know what a Rumble channel is, Matt or Mark. The hell is a Rumble channel? All right, Mark, I'm gonna come back hopefully at the end. Somebody send me what the hell a Rumble channel is. Is this just me being old? Why do I feel like Watson is going to shock us with a quick return? I just hope he comes back when he's healthy. For his sake, for the Packers' sake, don't rush anything. Take your time. The last time he got hurt, he maybe tried to come back a little bit too quick. So let's just have him take his time. Wouldn't shock me. He is a freak, and his athletic ability, nothing would surprise me, but I just hope he takes his time and really is healthy when he's ready to come back. My favorite and least favorite picks. Favorite is probably just going to be Golden. I mean, the Savion, watching him was really, really fun. I actually do like Belton more than I think most people do. I really like what I've seen out of Oliver so far. He's a really fun player. I don't think I have a least favorite pick in this draft. Yeah. I actually really like of all the top 30 guys that look like they might be UDFAs or late seventh guys, Micah Robinson was probably my favorite. And John Williams, the tape was good. And then I thought he looked really bad at the East-West Shrine game. But there's nobody in this class that I would say, I guess, I want to watch the all 22 of all of his stuff, but Brinson would probably be the one that, like, at the onset, I'm like, I don't see a ton here. I think he can be fine. So I guess maybe I would say that one, but they also needed a defensive tackle. Just go to Georgia if you need a defensive tackle more often than not. But we'll see I want to see what his, full all 22 looks like before I jump to any conclusions. But I guess just by default, that would be the one that when I watched some of his stuff, I was maybe a little bit less of like, it's fine. So I'd say that one probably off the top of my head, but favorite would be probably just Golden. Yeah, the Falcons trade up for Pierce was nuts. I agree. What's up, Andy? Who are your 3 biggest breakout candidates for this upcoming season? It could go in so many different directions, right? I'm going to say, okay, I've got one in my head. All right. Who else do I want to go with? All right. I got 2, 3. Okay. Jordan Morgan, Evan Williams, Marshawn Lloyd. Those are the 3 I'm going to go with. So here's the funny thing. Many of you know I was not a huge Jordan Morgan guy going into the draft last year. It was kind of one of the things that I didn't want to see in the first round. A bunch of other stuff I would have been fine with, but I didn't think he had quite that value. I still liked him as like a second round guy. I still think he was a really good offensive lineman. And it's even as me, somebody who didn't like him and kind of didn't want him in the first round. Or when I say didn't like him, and didn't like him as a first round pick and didn't want him to be the pick in the first round, I was still excited about the versatility. And I saw him just more as a second round guy that could come in and play a bunch of different positions, provide depth, kind of in the vein of like Elton Jenkins when you picked him in the second round. I just thought first round was a little bit rich for him. That was the only thing. But he's still projected as a very good player and somebody that was going to be able to come in and play along the offensive line right away. It has really stunned me. And I get there's the whole Cooper DeJean thing, whatever. Sure. But it has really stunned me of like how people are just like, oh, what a bust. Like he's just hurt. Like there's nothing that was on the field that was like, oh my God, this guy sucks. Like I could see if like he got in and was just like a turnstile out there and you're like, oh my goodness, what is this guy doing? But like, I would argue for the most part, and I didn't think it was great, but it was fine as a first year rookie, kind of playing a new position and battling injuries. It was fine. And that's totally fine as a rookie. I expect him to be a good starting offensive lineman in Green Bay for probably a while. And it's really kind of stunned me to see how many people are just like, oh, what a terrible pick. This guy sucks. It's like, but there's nothing to base that off of yet. Maybe he will. Maybe he goes on and is terrible and it doesn't work out at all. But I do not see that. I think he's going to be a good offensive lineman, and I expect him to be a legitimately good starter. Whether he gets in this year or not, significantly, that's the only question. But whenever he does, I expect him to be a good offensive lineman for this team. So that's number 1. Number 2, Marshawn Lloyd, just injured all last year. When he gets his opportunity, I think he's going to really make the most of it. Super talented player, really looking forward to him. And then I think there's a whole nother level to Evan Williams that he's going to jump to this year. So those are going to be my 3, Evan Williams, Marshawn Lloyd, and Jordan Morgan. Jordan Love actually playing like a good quarterback for once in a long time would make us a contender. It's a silly comment, Steven, but I guess I read it anyway. Jesse Gardner, Andy, lost my mom yesterday. Everyone in Packers Nation, hug your mom extra hard this Mother's Day. Jesse, I'm so sorry to hear that. I don't have words that I'm sure can even remotely do anything in this situation, but just know we're thinking about you. I will definitely do that with my mom and spend that extra moment. I'm going to spend an extra moment with my kids today too. Just thinking about you, man. I appreciate you taking the time to be here, still using this hopefully as a distraction. But, if you need anything, My DMs are open. If you need a distraction and just need to talk some Packers or anything, let me know. Happy to be here for you. And yeah, just try to think of all the amazing memories, think of the positive side of things as much as you can, and use it as a celebration of life as much as you can. But I know that's easier said than done. And again, here for you if you need anything. And yeah, I wish I had better words for you, but I know how devastating that can be. So my thoughts and prayers are with you, my friend. No easy way to transition from that. And again, Jesse, really thinking about you. I was surprised to see that Savion already signed his contract. Feels like the fastest we have seen a third round pick sign. Those guys used to be the last ones to sign each year, only 2 to go. Yeah, it should be pretty quick now. Usually, again, it is those more offsets and guarantees with the third round guys right now, but clearly they were able to get it done. And now only the first and second round guys left, which is perfect. Not that it's really an issue anymore, but it's just nice to get those done as quickly as possible. Ben's bet is on Sorrell. All right. By Jair being back, how do you think the roster for the defense will look? Well, we don't know yet that Jair's back unless something's really happened over the course of the last 30 minutes that I don't know of. But I'm very confident in the defense with Jair or without Jair. Depth and injuries are my concern, as it is for almost anything. You know, there's certain players that you just need to stay healthy through the course of the season. And when you don't have a ton of depth at corner, if Jair is gone, that becomes a little bit of a difference. And same thing at defensive tackle with Kenny Clark. But overall, like where the defense is trending, you're going to get some of these guys who I think struggled in the first year of Halfley's defense. Now in year 2, I think it's going to come a little bit more natural to them. You add some guys that, again, were specifically chosen for this Jeff Halfley defense, which those guys have turned out pretty well so far. The ones that in the past were, or this past year were chosen for his defense. So I'm very excited overall. I never try to get my hopes too high when it comes to Packers defense, but it says every right to be a top 10 defense. Again, they were a top 8 defense by every metric a year ago. I would think that they're not going to take any significant drop back, and hopefully they can get into that top 5 conversation. Tend to agree, Ben, but have an odd feeling and LVN could have somewhat of a breakout year this year. Fingers crossed. That's the hope. Wouldn't you say Gary is more of an average pass rusher? No, I would still say, I mean, if you look at, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I still think he was pretty high on the list of total pressures at defensive end last year. And I still think he was one of the most double team players in the league last year. So I still think I'd probably put him a little bit above average. Worried the most about Savion being a bust. Feels like another DeGuara pick. Does a lot of things well, but not one thing great or better than our other receivers. I do not see it that way at all, Anthony. It's certainly a high risk, high reward guy. If he busts, it's not like the craziest thing that's ever happened in the world. I don't think Josiah did anything well, quite frankly. There was some unique things. That was one of the more bizarre picks that they've ever made, quite frankly. Savion, you know, has a very defined, just get the ball in his hands sort of thing. And he's going to be able to do a lot for you. So I think they're totally different things. I'm very optimistic about Savion and what he can be. I just don't know how you can watch any of his stuff and be like, oh, that guy's not going to work out. There's just too much there. There's just really too much there. So I think, again, with Matt being so creative, with Savion being so talented, with a modern offense where you have ways of getting the ball in guys' hands pretty easily, I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's going to be a really fun piece for this offense. Do I think Belton has a legit chance to beat Ryan out or just better depth than we've had? No, I think that'll be a competition. I think it's going to be Morgan and Walker at left tackle. I think it's going to be Belton and Ryan at right guard. We'll see. Maybe some of that changes, but that's kind of my guess now. I bet Banks and Jenkins and Tom are solidified in their spots. Those other ones are up for grabs. And it wouldn't surprise me if we got some sort of rotation too, where Walker was at, Walker and Morgan kind of rotated at left tackle, and Morgan and Belton did some rotating at right guard. Could easily see that being the case. All right, you have to get out of here in about 7-8 minutes ish. So just going to go through some member chats before we get out of here. Talked to Paul Farrington this week on the radio show. So I had a great conversation with him for the radio. Don't have anything planned, from a podcast standpoint, but it was great to catch up with him on the radio this week. Was it ever revealed why Monk wasn't on the active game day rosters to end the season? No, but I don't think there's too much to read into it other than the other guys kind of went above him on the depth chart for game days. I don't think there's anything more to it than that. It was kind of a constant competition throughout the season, and different guys were inactive and deactive throughout the course of the year. But by the end of the year, it was Monk, and it just looked like Glover and Kadeem were both ahead of Monk by the end of the season. So I don't think it's really anything more than that. Any great draft coverage this year, as always. Do you think Belton will push to start this year? Maybe rotate or just expect more of a redshirt season? Yep, just went over that. Can't wait to see Williams in this. And thank you for the kind words, by the way, Jason. Can't wait to see Williams in this offense. I feel like he's already been written off as the worst parts of MVS and Irvin combined. But like you said, he has some absolutely crazy skill. 83 is A+ too. Yeah, just fun player. I'm intrigued and interested. And like I kind of said on the deep dive, if he is a total bust, just doesn't work out at all, I will still understand the selection. He is so tantalizing, so just, unbelievably talented and freakishly gifted that I get taking the swing at that point in the draft. Sometimes you have to be bold. Sometimes you just have to go for it and say, you know what? This guy is everything that we could possibly want him to be. Now it's our job to get the most out of him. And that's how I see Savion. Like I will never, hate that pick, even if it doesn't work out, just because I can understand why they would do it. Now it's up to the coaching staff. And if this is a true draft and develop team, you drafted a gem. Now can you figure out a way to utilize him and get the most out of him? That's how I kind of view it. So if I'm a GM, to me, if I give you that guy and you can't figure out a way to use him, that's more on the coaching staff and play calling than it is on the player. Like there's just too much there. We'll see though. Again, he's a very, very unique player, very interesting player. It's quite the roller coaster when you view him. Go Pack, Jay Western. Appreciate you being here. Out of Golden, Williams, and Sorrell and Oliver, who do you think will overachieve and underachieve expectations the most? Pump for these new duos at their position. Can't forget the Georgia guys too. Well, I will say Williams will overachieve based on what some of the expectations I've been hearing. If we're comparing him to Josiah DeGuara already, I'm going to say he overachieves by quite a bit. And I'm going to actually say Sorrell is the one that underachieves based similar, just reverse thinking on it. There's already this idea that Sorrell is the biggest steal in the draft and that he's going to come in and take the starting job from LVN. And usually when we get those high hopes, it doesn't really go that way. Like I would pump the brakes. I really like Sorrell. I think he was a really good value pick at that point in the draft. There's also reasons why he was still around, and there's not a ton of dynamic stuff to his game, which isn't the worst thing in the world. It's not all about being dynamic. It's about being productive, and it's about being, solid and not losing your battles. And he does a really good job of very rarely losing those battles. But I would say, if based on what I've been hearing from expectations so far, I would say I think Sorrell's going to have a very hard time living up to already what's being put out there for him. And I think already Williams is going to be put in a very good position since there's already talk of him being Josiah DeGuara or a bust. So that's how I will define those two. Though apparently I forgot Escalade and the Composer. Lots of fun battles to watch this summer. Very much so. Derek Harmon to Pitt seemed like a good move. Yes, that's another really, really good one. All right. Andrew, without benefits of hindsight, who do you want when on the clock in the first 4 rounds after deep dives? Did this change at all for you? Who did I want? Let me see if I can go through this really quick here. First round, I wanted Golden on the clock. That's who I wanted at that spot. So again, I would have considered very much the trade with Atlanta if that were an option. But if staying on the clock and picking at that point, definitely taking Golden. Let's see, round 2, they take Anthony Belton at that spot. Don't think I would have doubled up for Basher Harris, even though I liked him. Probably went to gone Mike Green because of the off-field stuff. Just seeing who else was available here. Trey Amos would have been in the conversation. Could have understood Darius Alexander. I probably would have went Landon Jackson there. I think I probably would have went Landon Jackson. I just think there's enough upside there as another pass rush option. Maybe he's a little bit redundant to kind of what you got in LVN, but I don't think so. I probably would have went with Landon Jackson in round 2. So Golden round 1, Landon Jackson in round 2. Then round 3, when on the clock. Trying to think who was there. So we got an end and we got a receiver. There's not really any corners at that spot. Don't really need that. Yeah, this is a tougher one because there's not a ton there that makes a lot of sense. Again, I can understand why Savion Williams was the choice. I probably would have taken Deontay Thornton, the wide receiver. I know we already took a wide receiver. No, we took Golden already. I probably would have taken Deontay Thornton there. Just that deep threat down the field. Again, the difference between him and Savion is going to be interesting to kind of go through. Both tall, fast guys, where Savion's more of the, do a little bit of everything, whereas Thornton's like do a lot of one thing. But I probably would have taken Deontay Thornton at that spot on the clock just to give me another option as a deep ball wide receiver, somebody that can stretch the field a little bit more. Then in the 4th round, when Sorrell was there, I definitely would have taken what's his face, the defensive end out of Brinson. Where the heck? Swinson, Braden Swinson. I would have taken in the 4th round. So my haul would have probably, if you, whatever you want to define it, it probably would have been. Who did I say in round 2? Probably would have been Matthew Golden, and then did I say Amos? No, I didn't. Who the hell did I say in round 2? Oh, Landon Jackson. So Landon Jackson, Matthew Golden, Thornton, and then the defensive end in round 5, or round 4, excuse me. Yeah, that's probably what I would end up with. Swinson, sorry, all over the place. But that's probably what I would have done while on the clock. But very happy with what Green Bay ended up with. What is the ceiling for Isaiah Simmons, and would the NASCAR package look like from your perspective with who is the projected 53? Are you talking like a 155? If we're doing 155, I'm probably putting Wyatt at defensive tackle, and then I'm probably getting Oliver on the field for sure in that situation, along with Cooper, Quay, Simmons, and Oliver, Cooper, Quay, Simmons. Probably just Gary at that point. I'd probably do Gary. Don't think I do LVN or Cox or Enigbari. So yeah, probably Rashawn Gary and Oliver as the quote unquote defensive ends, but standing up, moving everywhere. Wyatt at defensive tackle, then Simmons, Cooper, and Quay as kind of the linebackers. And then, probably Hobbs in the slot, assuming Jair's on the team, Jair and Nixon on the outside with Williams and McKinney at safety. I got to get out of here in just a couple seconds, guys. Here's the thing. It's easy to say Golden's perfect for this offense. He is, but I've always been impressed with LaFleur's creativity, and Savion in his hands are what football dreams are made of. I totally agree. Was a little bummed out just because of some stuff when Williams was picked, but after your deep dive, I'm interested to see what he can become. Totally get that. I'm glad I could at least drum up some enthusiasm. What kind of season would it take for Romeo Doubs to get re-signed? Pro Bowl type season, I think you're probably looking at. And even then, it just raises his price elsewhere. But he basically have to become the number one, like kind of the undeniable number one guy in Green Bay. And then I think Green Bay would have that conversation a little bit more. If you are a fan of creative strategy, I'm calling it now. Watch what happens this year. Counting Marshawn Lloyd in the mix. Remember him, madness, getting hyped up. Love that, R. Smith. Don't know which part that is. I go Jordan Morgan, Marshawn Lloyd, and Golden. So, Ben, we were very much in lockstep for the most part. Anthony, thank you for that. Most hated Minnesotan, good to see you. Rumble is a YouTube alternative, kind of like Blue Sky is an alternative to Twitter, but inversed, if that makes sense. Gotcha. No, I probably don't have any. I have no capacity to do anything more at this point. I'd say there's a good argument to make that we have the deepest wide receiver and running back rooms in the league. Wish we could say the same for corner. Listen, you can't have everything everywhere. Everyone wants depth at every position. It just doesn't exist. So celebrate the depth that you have at the positions that you have, and then just pray and hope that you don't have any major injuries on the ones where you don't have a ton of depth. Like the Williams pick more than the Golden pick in terms of value. I could understand that. Oh, what did Justina say? Justina said Jair will not come to Green Bay until his contract is resolved. She's spoken to 2 teams who are interested in him. Okay. That was from Mike. Interesting. I've spoken to at least 2 teams. Okay, there we go. I was sure Trey Amos was going to be the pick in the 2nd round. Yeah, I mean, definitely could have been. I obviously didn't have the interest in him, but I would not have hated it if they went in that direction. Cornerback class in 2026 draft is much better. We could get 2 starters with the first 2 picks. Interesting to know. All right, guys, I do have to get out of here. I think we hit all the member chats, all the super chats. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry I can't stay a little bit longer, but my kids are going to be sitting in a school parking lot with nobody to pick them up if I don't leave here shortly. So I'm going to go do that. It's probably pretty important. I'll see you guys all very, very soon. Obviously, episodes coming out tomorrow. Tomorrow will be the Colin Oliver deep dive. And then we'll see if I get anything of importance from rookie minicamp. That might just be a recap on Sunday. Monday will probably be a little bit of a different topic. And then Tuesday through Thursday, Friday, whatever it takes, we'll get through the remainder of the deep dives. Next weekend, probably look at some of the undrafted free agents a little bit more. Should be a ton of fun. I'll see you guys all very soon. Thank you so much for all the support and for being here. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.